Are you concerned that someone you know is becoming too prepared? What the heck does that even mean? Live happy, fun-loving, and carefree. I mean, seriously, are you concerned that someone you know is becoming too prepared? I mean, come on. How can you be too prepared in a world today? And it's these goofy fact checkers over on social media, over on, well, I'll go ahead and say it, Facebook. I kind of hate to even mention their name, but get out of here, you dumb bug. That's what happens when you're filming out in nature. And, you know, they're actually asking people on the platform if they know someone, if some of their friends or whatever are becoming too prepared. I mean, think about that. And the groups, like one set of groups that I know that's been hit really hard is canning groups. If you're into canning, taking your vegetables and things from your garden and you get your ball jars or whatever and you cook your stuff on the stove and you heat it up and you put the little lids on there and they pop down and that, and then you can, you know, store your food for later. I mean, that's a really popular thing. My grandma canned all the time. I mean, that's just what they did in that generation, my grandma's generation. Everybody canned. So today, all of a sudden, if you can, you're being too prepared. I mean, that thought just blows my mind. I can't believe they're even thinking of that. And another one that they're doing over there is fact-checking things like I just saw the other day where the fact-checkers said people don't store reused foil. You know, they don't clean it up and save it, and recycling foil, and nobody saves bacon grease. I mean, again, that's just crazy. We save bacon grease. I'll admit we don't save our foil. We don't reuse foil. But if it became really short or crazy expensive, we certainly would. We definitely save bacon grease to use for later. I mean, again, my grandma, my mom's mom, my grandma, and she was a little tiny lady when she was with us. She saved everything. And when I say everything, I really, really, really mean she saved everything. She made a cup of Lipton tea in the morning for breakfast, and she had this little plastic little dish, and she sat her tea bag in that dish. She used the same tea bag in the evening at dinner time. She redid that. And I mean, again, she saved everything. I remember one time when I was a kid, little, I was at my grandparents' house and I was looking for something or snooping around, being nosy or whatever it is. I don't remember exactly what I was doing back at the time. But I got out this big coffee can, back when coffee came in real metal cans, and there was a really big can, probably like a 2 or 3 pounder, I don't know, with the kind of like a Tupperware-like plastic lid on the top. I opened up the can. It was full of those little square white tabs that comes on the end of a bread loaf. You know, those little white things that you pop off and you reach in and you take your bread out, you spin it up and you put that little white clip on there. She had a giant coffee can filled to the top with those. She saved everything. So you fact checkers need to get your fact-checking rear ends out of here, because you're accusing people of doing stuff that nobody ever did when everybody did it. It's just crazy. And while I'm thinking about it, I just wanted to share something quick with you. I picked me up a new flannel shirt here the other day, and it's regularly like 59 bucks, and I paid like 14 for it, and it's a real nice little shirt here, Eddie Bauer flannel shirt. This is going to be my going to town shirt. I'm going to save it for when I need to clean up to head to town. So that'll be my town shirt until it gets old and full of holes. Then it'll be my working on the farm shirt, because I love flannel. Flannel sheets are on the bed now. I wear flannel all the time. Why? Hey, I wore flannel since way back before wearing flannel was even cool. So I wear flannel. What do you think about that? So back to our fact-checking stuff here. It's crazy what they're talking about people doing, about being too prepared. I'm making firewood. Well, I don't actually make the firewood. I cut down the trees. I hunt around. We have a fair amount of land that's just all wooded, lots of woods, and I try to find trees that are dead or in the process of dying. I don't like to cut down growing, in their youth trees. I try to find ones that are on their way out, that are starting to fall down and coming apart. And what you do want to be careful when you chainsaw down a tree that's dying, because the wood can drop on you. It is a safety issue, so be careful there. But we burn firewood. So does that mean we're too preppy because we make firewood and burn firewood to heat our house? We have propane for backup, but we try to not use it too much. We burn a little bit. I don't get up in the middle of the night and throw wood in the stove all the time. I'll let the propane kick on. My thought is, if you don't use it, you'll lose it. So I don't want to have the propane furnace sitting there not being used for 6 months, a year, or whatever, and then when you need it, it won't work. So I like to let it run a couple of times every week during the winter, at least a little bit, knowing that it's working. So we burn a little bit of a little bit of propane, and we eat a little bit of protein too with our chicken eggs and that. And we're not 100% off grid. We do have electricity at this house. We use like $75 a month in electricity, but and then we store a lot of food. We have a big freezer. We keep a lot of stuff in that freezer. So, we don't can now. We used to can years ago, a few years ago even. I love homemade pickles, taking the cucumbers from the garden and making pickles in that. But, hey, I'm getting a little bit of lazy now, and jars are expensive, and the lids and the rings are, if you can even find them, they're hard to come by. So we choose not to can right now. But we could do it if we needed to store food, to keep it so we would have it for later. Because let's face it, have you been in the store lately? I mean, we were just there the other day when I got my flannel shirt. Shelves, whole big shelves are empty, just nothing on the shelf. What happens if that's stuff that you have to have, for food? A lot of things are limited, 1 item, 2 item, 3 items. They won't let you hoard stuff. So you have to be careful, that way too. What if it's, if you've got a big family? It's just me and Mrs. DIY now, so it's just the two of us. So we're pretty frugal with things. But what happens if you have a big growing family with kids that, need a lot of stuff? What are you going to do if you're too preppy? So don't let these so-called fact-checker experts think that you're being too preppy because you like to can, or you like to, get your own firewood and heat your house yourself. If you're off grid with solar or whatever, if you want to recycle your aluminum foil and use it 2 or 3 times, hey, go for it. That's up to you. Like, we have a lot of dried goods in 5-gallon buckets stored up. We've got flour and sugar and rice and beans and all kinds of things that are staples that will have shelf lives of probably years. If the you-know-what hits the fan and things go south, we can live on our own. We can be prepared. We can completely heat our house with firewood if we need to. And I used to chop wood by hand for my whole life. I just got the log splitter that you saw at the beginning of the video there. I just got that a few years ago because I decided, even though I love splitting wood, it's kind of my therapy, I got to be realistic about how much I can do in a day now, how many hours I can do that. So a log splitter is a tool that I feel is appropriate for me. But if I couldn't get gas for it, I'd be splitting the wood by hand. I'd be chopping the trees down by hand. If we didn't have gas to go to town, we can eat chicken eggs. We could even eat the chickens if we needed to. You know, we've got vegetables. There's a lot that we can do on our own. And I'm hoping that you can do that on your own too. And don't let the silly fact checkers say you're being too preppy in today's world, because that's what they want. They want you, me, everybody to be completely 100% dependent on the government and the system, that we wait for that handout to be given to us. And when it comes down to the bread lines and getting, you know, a case of drinking water for a week and 3 gallons of gas for your car, back in the early 70s, I remember gas rationing. Odd and even days, you could only get $5 worth of gas. Of course, it was a lot less expensive back then. You know, we all had to live with that. If you're young in today, you know, maybe you're not too experienced with all of that things can go bad. And it's just even being prepared for like a storm. If you're living on the Gulf Coast, you know, hurricanes. If you live up north, nor'easters and things. I mean, there were many times when we lived way up in New England that, you know, you'd be without power for a week if you had a bad storm. So it's just being prepared for those kind of things. Living happy, fun-loving, and carefree. You doing what you want to do, and don't let the fact checkers fact check your life. If you want to can and you love canning, don't let them say that you're being too preppy because you do that. If you want to do something else, it's just popped into my head, the one with Paul Revere riding through town saying, "The British are coming, the British are coming." If Facebook had fact-checked that, they'd have said partly false, because only the British Army was coming. So that's a false statement, because not all the British were coming. So wear your flannel. Be as preppy as you want to be. Watch this video for more good times, whatever you want to call it. And please go ahead and subscribe. Share with your friends if you think they'll enjoy learning about being preppy and some entertainment. Thanks.